Confused about how to plan for your retirement? Sean Maloney is here to help. Sean has created the Retire Happy framework that considers more than just how much you should save. Getting information and tools to preserve your financial future is minutes away. Welcome to the Priority of Retirement with your host, Sean Maloney.
Welcome to another episode of the Priority of Retirement, where we dive into all aspects of retirement planning, unpacking those strategies, ideas, insights, and thoughtful for rewarding journey in retirement. In today's episode, you know what? Let me pause there again. I forgot to ask you how I pronounce your last name.
It's Doucette.
Doucette. Okay. I don't want to say it wrong. And so Jacquie Doucette, right?
Yep.
All right, cool. Here we go. Third time's charm. All right, welcome to another episode of the Priority of Retirement, where we delve into all aspects of retirement planning, where we unpack those strategies, ideas, and insights for a thoughtful and rewarding journey into retirement. Now, today's episode, we have Jacquie Doucette, who's on a mission to help people realize there's more to retirement than just simply walking away from a job. She had a 40-year career in Canada's Department of National Defense, and both in and out of uniform, Jacquie brings a deep life and professional experience to the table. In 2019, she discovered the world of podcasting while house sitting in Mexico, and went on to host the podcast Beyond Retirement. That show had 264 episodes featuring professionals and everyday voices alike, and she supports others in designing a post-career lifestyle filled with purpose, passion, and adventure, and has the love and support of her family cheering her on. So Jacquie, it's great having you on here today.
Thanks, Sean. I'm really excited to be here.
Perfect. So tell us a little bit about, first of all, being in the Department of Defense with Canada. What was that like? That's, something a little bit different that not everybody hears every day, on a retirement podcast. So I got to start there, just kind of hear a little bit about your career there.
Well, it was not as exciting as it might have been. You hear all the time, join the military, see the world. There were 3 cities that I went to over and over. So I spent my time in Trenton, Halifax, and Ottawa, very, just Eastern Canada.
Gotcha.
I did aircraft maintenance for a while, and then they realized they didn't need maintenance engineers anymore. They needed pharmacists. So I went back to school and became a pharmacist, which is what I had wanted to do at the beginning when they needed engineers. So
full cycle.
Yep.
That's a pretty big shift from engineering to pharmacy.
It is kind of, yeah. That's.
Well, when you're that long career that you had, with the Department of Defense there, how did you really begin envisioning, your life beyond your career? When did that start coming into focus, and what really triggered that?
After about 35 years or so of work, so I'd done my 20 years of military service and gone back to work for them as a civilian, I started to think I'd rather be somewhere else.
Yeah.
I started dreaming about what life was going to be like when I wasn't going to the office every day. And then COVID-19 happened. And that helped because I got to work from home, and I realized how many other things I could be doing instead of working every day.
Right.
So my life had really been focused on work all the time, but I continued to daydream to the point where going to work was hard, and that I knew it was time then to pull the plug. I didn't want to be there.
Right. Well, that's a good indicator when you start having those thoughts. And and you mentioned COVID. It's when people were forced to be at home a lot, I think that got a lot of people thinking about, those kind of things, and what else are the possibilities. And obviously that kind of changed a lot of, people's lives professionally and their, how they go about their day a lot. And we talked a lot about during that time, people started to kind of exploring, people that were closer to retirement, kind of exploring that trial retirement run, right? Where you're at home, or you take a extended vacation, and you kind of envision what that retirement day would be like, right? Well, so interesting. How did house sitting in Mexico evolve into your podcast called Beyond Retirement?
Well, when I was doing the house sit in Mexico, one of my house sitting friends was trying to help another fellow on Facebook get an audience for a presentation that he was doing to teach people how to create a podcast. So I had nothing to do. I said, sure, I'll be in the Facebook audience while he does that.
Great.
And over the course of 3 days, 2 hours each day, we laid out 12 months worth of content for a podcast.
Oh, wow.
And I figured, since I have it all, I might as well give it a shot. At that point, I'd never even listened to a podcast before. So it was interesting.
So you went from not even listening to having your own. It sounds like it was pretty successful though. So congrats on that.
Yeah, he did a good job.
That's fantastic. So, with retirement planning, there's a lot to there are many different aspects of retirement planning. And what we tell people a lot is, yeah, sure, we're involved in the, financial side, but really, money's just a tool to make retirement happy. We all work hard our whole life and want to enjoy that retirement, when we get there. And there's a lot of different, and I love starting with talking with people about, what's your retirement why, what do you want to do in retirement, those kind of things. But that phrase living with purpose, what does living with purpose mean to you, especially after you've experienced this, right? You had the structured work life, and then I love that concept of living with purpose, because we shift from, hey, our day was defined by work, and now there's several mind shift changes going into retirement. One of those obviously being, what do we do with our day? So talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, as you said, working in the military, I always had a purpose.
Yeah.
So I didn't even have to think about it. I knew what I was doing. After leaving that, life was completely unstructured for a while for me, and I wasn't happy. Something felt like it was missing. And I realized that what it was I didn't have a focus anymore. I didn't have a reason to get up every day.
Right.
And living with purpose, I think, is vital to our well-being. It's what keeps us moving forward every day. And you have to move forward because otherwise you just stagnate.
Right.
And that's not good. You don't want to be, just floating through life. So for me, living with purpose means having a clear idea. It doesn't mean that every hour of your day is structured, but it means when you're faced with two alternatives, you know which one is going to move you forward, and that's the one you take to continue making life better.
Yeah, I mean, if you were used to, like, especially, military base with a lot of structure, but even just a regular corporate job, and you get up in the morning, certain time, you go to work, that's your day,
Yeah,
it's kind of defined, and then people retire, and they go, okay, now what, right? And
exactly.
and maybe I think people go through that honeymoon phase of retirement a little bit, where the first several months to a year, it's the mindset change hasn't shifted in yet, because it's still new and fresh and exciting, and
Yep.
maybe they're
And
trying to
everything
do
is
new
fun.
things. Right, right. They're doing some things that they wanted to get off their list that they didn't have time to do. But it's staggering, some of the stats that are out there. When you look at, not to be, retirement should be fun and enjoyable, and but the people that end up actually getting into a state of depression because,
Yeah.
to your point, the purpose side of it, what a better time to figure out how to fill your time and what brings you joy and fulfillment. Now you have the time to try. And I tell people, look, hey, just try stuff. You got time now, try it. If you don't,
Yep.
move on to the next thing. If that's not, that didn't float your boat.
Yep. Exactly. You've got the time, play with it.
Right. 100%. Well, the name of your podcast was, Beyond Retirement, right? So what is that? One, why did you call it that? And what does that personally mean to you? And then how do you help others kind of redefine that phase of life?
Okay. I called it Beyond Retirement because when I started, I was at the point where I was trying to figure out what comes next, what comes after retirement. So it made sense to me that what I was looking for was life beyond retirement, because retirement isn't an end point. It's just kind of like a, a post in the road, and you're continuing to go,
Right.
hopefully. And
Right.
hopefully that next period beyond retirement is lengthy. It might be longer than your career was, depending
Sure.
on your circumstances. So it's important to know what you're going to do. And I figured calling it that, I had a couple of people say, beyond retirement, what's that? Death? And it's like, well, maybe, but hopefully not.
Well, that's a great comment, though, right? I mean, people, you hit that phrase of retirement, and it's not the end, right? It's
No,
the beginning of a new phase, and
exactly.
and
So,
like you said, people are, geez, with people living longer these days than the average lifespan longer, I've seen people have, you know, time in retirement that's longer than their working years.
yep, exactly. You could easily be in retirement or beyond retirement for 30 or 35 years.
Yeah, and
And
that's
hopefully it's healthy time.
right. Yeah, and kind of tying back to to their purpose thing, obviously that all fills together. And the purpose side of it to me, I think there's a lot of different aspects that can take into, but there's really some core things, right? Whether it's relationships, I mean, we're all built for relationships. As a human being, we're built for that. And I think too many times people kind of, get in isolation, once they get there.
Yeah.
But yeah, finding what's going to bring you that joy in retirement. But look, you had what 264 episodes of your podcast. Yeah. So I mean, you talked to a lot of people, and I'm sure you had a lot of interesting conversations there. What are some insights that kind of emerged from all those interviews and talking to all those people? I mean, some trends or insights, some common themes, or some things that you can share.
Let's see. A common theme for most of the people who were talking about what they're doing past retirement was taking the time to figure it out, because you spent a career doing things. You didn't learn your entire career or set up your entire career in the first month of work. You don't need to figure out your entire future in your first month of retirement. Take some time, look at different things, try it out. If you don't like it, then set it on the shelf, do something new.
Right.
But we've got so much time, theoretically, you've got time to play a little bit and try new stuff.
What were some of the more did you get any kind of not outrageous, but just kind of off the wall kind of things that you heard from?
Actually, there weren't. I had one. I had one on a few different tangents in the podcast. So sometimes I was talking to people who had retired and were doing things. Others had tossed the 9 to 5 out the window and were doing other stuff and still working. And then there were people who were there to help those who have retired. So one of the episodes was a sex therapist, and it was kind of interesting when they're talking about the things you need to do in order to keep your relationship moving forward, because just because you've retired doesn't mean your body is retired too. And
Right.
it was interesting talking to her about the things that she could do to help.
100%. Well,
I won't go into them.
No, yeah. Yeah. Well, and I tie that into, kind of the health side. I mean, the health aspect of obviously as we age, we got to keep in mind the health aspect and the physical aspect of it, of keeping our bodies healthy, being alive, enjoying life in all different ways. It all plays in for sure. So, I mean, so how can someone build a retirement lifestyle? What's your steps or what's your thoughts on how do people go about thinking about that, of building that lifestyle filled with, meaning, and especially when people are, I think some people have a fear of, leaving work and the routine. And what are some of your, recommendations or way you would help people through kind of defining that and fulfilling that?
Um, sure. Most people identify pretty strongly with the work that they do. When you meet somebody new, the first thing is, what do you do? So
Right.
the fear of losing that identity when you come to retirement is a genuine concern. And I think that building a retirement lifestyle that's filled with meaning takes some effort. So the first thing that I do is help you figure out what has meaning for you now that you've finished your career, because it's going to be different. I think it's important to take time to consider what's important, because the answer is going to shape your actions going forward.
Right.
And as I said, you didn't build your career all at once, so you don't build the retirement lifestyle all at once, but it takes some time to feel the rhythm of the new life.
Yeah.
Figure out what piques your interest, figure out what you're actually going to focus on, because if you take the time to look around you during the day, you're going to see different things, and you're going to see things that spark your interest, and you're going to see things that you want to run away from. So you need to take the time, and that's what I tell people is, don't be afraid to do nothing for a little while you figure out what still has interest for you. We do some exercises to talk about what your dreams were when you were a kid, because usually what you dreamed about as a child isn't what you end up doing.
Right. Right.
And we put the dreams of being an astronaut or, those kind of things on the shelf. But if you go back and kind of unpack that a little bit, why did you want to be an astronaut? Maybe you wanted to go into space, but maybe it was, astronomy, maybe something like that was
Oh yeah.
interesting. And, maybe you could go down that path and learn something new. So we just talk about what did you do and what did you put aside? Because we put aside a lot of our hopes and dreams when we have a career because
Sure.
they don't align with what the career is.
Yeah.
And retirement's a time to go back and do that. Take a look at those dreams and see where they go.
Yeah. I think what would be a great thing to do is as people go through life and they think about the what ifs or the things that you would like to do, whether it's your childhood dreams or stuff you thought about along the way. Keep some notes, keep a little pad and say, hey, this would be great to try one day, or this, or maybe it just sparked my interest. And then to your point, when you go to retire, you pull that out and you look at it and see, is that something that, you really still continues to spark your passion or, and I think too, once we get to retirement, I kind of like the pause aspect for a minute, and then your the way you see life and the way you see things after you retire can change a little bit.
It sure can.
And you may not see your life or the world, or your perspectives maybe change a little bit because you're not in the grind of the daily work thing, and that may change what you want to do, where you want to
Exactly. Yep.
go. Keep them open mind, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe you always liked classical music, but didn't do anything with it, of course, because you were busy working every day. But now you can take up an instrument. You can learn about things. It's
Right.
who knows?
Yeah, that's fantastic. We look at when we go through and do planning and stuff, we kind of look at retirement in a couple of different phases. There's that first phase of the kind of the go-go years where people are excited and they're doing things, and they're just ready to get all this stuff done that they wanted to get off their list. And then you kind of get into that middle phase, which is kind of the slow go years where your mind's saying, let's go. Your body's kind of saying, I don't really think so.
Yep.
Right. And then the last phase of being the no-go where, you maybe have some health issues. Your body just doesn't want to do anything. But I think you can kind of think about your things that you want to do and your purposes or things you want to try in that realm as well. You divide them up into some categories of things that do while you have the energy and things that
Exactly.
don't take as much energy. Maybe, save those for a little bit later,
Yep. Exactly. It takes some planning, and I think people are not hesitant, but people forget that they need to plan even for retirement.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and some people freak out when they hear that word plan, right? Not everybody's a planner, but it doesn't have to be intense, right? It doesn't have to be this big thing. It could be as simple as, like you said, just having ideas and going back and revisiting those and taking some notes. It doesn't,
Yep.
you don't have to lay out a diagram.
No, exactly. That's something I said in my podcast a lot. I was always telling people, make a list. It doesn't
Right.
have to be anything grand, but just write down the things that interest you. And then you
100%.
can, divide them up and say, okay, well, I'm not really ready to go jump out of an airplane today, but maybe I can sail,
Yeah.
whatever.
I mean, I think the impact that has on someone's emotional state and in their mindset of being able to, how good it feels, even if you're not a goal oriented person or not, but when you have something in your mind and you're able to check that off that you tried it or did it, or,
Yep,
you finally got to do that,
exactly.
it's that euphoria that comes from that of, you know, knocking that off your list or accomplishing that. I think that's
Yeah.
fantastic. I think
And I
that's
think
great.
that's important in retirement because we forget that. We forget that you can still have goals and you can still do things. Just because you're, quote unquote, retired doesn't mean you're dead. It doesn't
Right.
mean life is over.
Right. 100%. There's so many people that have done great things in their retirement years.
Yep.
I mean, I would even go, I mean, I would say defined and made more impact, after they retired, whether it's, of course, doing the things you want to do, but giving back and impacting
Exactly.
people around you in your community and,
Yep.
expanding yourself as well. But I think you have more time to be impactful. And I think, human nature with us as well. I mean, we're built for relationships, but I think even if not everybody admits it, we're also built to, overall for the most part, caring and helping each other out. And heck knows we need that more in the world these days.
Yeah.
And we have more time to do that. Right. So,
Exactly.
well, as a kind of a last comment or a parting thing, what was something you want to leave our listeners with as far as retirement or retirement advice?
I think maybe I'm repeating myself way too
That's
many
fine.
times, but I think the most important thing is to make sure you think about it before, if you can, before you're retired.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Just have an idea in your mind of the things you'd like to do, because
100%.
there is time, but you need to plan it a little bit.
Yeah. Think about it. Be a dreamer.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I love this topic. I would love to, stay connected with you and possibly talk to you again. And we can certainly connect you with people. It was a pleasure having you on. Everybody, here's to aligning your future. Until the next time, y'all have a blessed and wonderful day.
Thanks for listening to The Priority of Retirement with Sean Maloney. If you enjoyed the show, check out our reviews on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. For more free resources to help with your retirement journey, go to retirewisepro.com or check the link in the show notes. You can also download a free copy of Sean's book, The Priority of Retirement, or reach out to discuss working with him directly at retirewisepro.com. Thanks for listening.
Insurance products offered through the insurance business RetireWise LLC. RetireWise LLC is also an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through AE Wealth Management LLC, AEWM, a registered investment advisor. AEWM does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by RetireWise LLC are not subject to investment advisor requirements. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the insuring carrier. This podcast intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. RetireWise LLC is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during the show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by RetireWise LLC. Guests of the Priority of Retirement are not affiliated with, nor do they endorse Sean Maloney or RetireWise LLC.